All right, so marijuana detox. Let's be real. We've all seen those ads, right? The ones for those drinks, those pills promising to like totally flush out your system in what, a few hours?
Oh, yeah.
And honestly, part of me is always like, come on, that's got to be too good to be true.
They absolutely are. There's just no magic solution when it comes to detoxing from weed. It's just not how it works.
Okay, so that's exactly what we're getting into today, right? Separating those myths from the actual facts. I'm Clint.
And I'm Deb.
And we've got this honestly really informative article from Sandstone Care, Detoxing from Weed, How to Reset from Smoking Marijuana. And it gets into like all the nitty gritty of what happens when you decide, okay, it's time to hit the reset button after, enjoying a little herbal refreshment. So we've established no quick fixes. That's busted. It's a myth that we've completely busted. But like actual detox, is it even possible? Can our bodies actually do that?
Absolutely, it's possible. Our bodies are honestly amazingly efficient at processing and removing substances. And yeah, that includes THC.
Okay, whew, it's relief. I was starting to get a little weird there for a second, like maybe some of those late college snacks were permanently embedded somewhere within my liver.
And it's not just THC. It's dealing with all sorts of stuff. Like, if you had a few drinks, if there's like other toxins, things like opioids, your liver is handling all of that all the time.
Wow, so it's like the ultimate multitasker, the liver. But even the most dedicated organs need a little help sometimes, I imagine. So how do we make the detox process run as smoothly as possible? What can we do?
Well, the most crucial thing is to actually give your body a break from the THC. Like, that's the foundation of it all. And this article, it debunks all of those like quick fix solutions you see advertised everywhere, like those detox products, or the idea that there's some magic THC absorbing food that you can eat. Those just don't work.
Sadly, there goes my $1 million idea for like THC absorbing kale smoothies or something.
Right?
Yeah, but back to the drawing board. Okay, so no shortcuts, but we can at least like support our liver in other ways too. Maybe speed things up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Staying hydrated is a big one. Making sure you're eating a balanced diet and then even incorporating some exercise can make a difference. Think of it this way. Like, you wouldn't expect a car to run efficiently if you're only giving it like fumes and sugar, right?
Right. I'm loving, by the way, all the car metaphors. Keep going.
So you got to give your body the good stuff to really function at its best.
Makes sense. Okay, so the question I'm sure on everyone's mind.
Yes.
How long does detox actually take? Give us a realistic time frame here.
Yeah, great question. So the article highlights that for a thorough detox, you're looking at around 2 weeks, okay? But, and this is important, that doesn't mean it's the same for absolutely everyone. Things like how often you were using, your metabolism, your overall health, all that plays a part.
So like 2 weeks is a good ballpark, but for some people might be quicker, some people might be a little longer.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about individual variation.
Okay, that makes sense.
And there's another really important part of detox that the article gets into, and that's the science behind how marijuana is actually affecting our system, especially our brains. This is where it gets really interesting.
Okay, yeah, let's get into it. Hit us with the science.
So, THC, which is that psychoactive component in marijuana, it interacts with our brains, specifically these things called cannabinoid receptors. And those receptors, they're involved in regulating a whole bunch of functions like mood, sleep, appetite, even your memory.
Wow.
Yeah, and when you're using marijuana consistently, your brain, it kind of like adapts to this influx of THC. It gets used to it being there.
So it's like your brain gets used to having THC around, and then when it's suddenly gone, it's like, wait, hold on. Where'd my buddy go?
That's a great way to put it. And that's exactly when you get those withdrawal symptoms kicking in. And the article doesn't sugarcoat it at all. Withdrawal is a real thing, and it's not just people being dramatic.
Right. I know a lot of people talk about it's not, but it is real.
It's a real psychological response. Your brain adjusts to having that regular dose of THC. And then when you take that away, it's almost like, you're suddenly changing the channel on your brain.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it takes a little time to adapt to new programming,
Okay, so those withdrawal symptoms that we hear about, those are basically like the side effects of the whole reprogramming process.
Yeah, you could think of it that way, and it's not like a one size fits all kind of thing either. Everybody's experience with withdrawal is going to be different. Some people, they might have just a few mild symptoms, while others have like a really tough time going through it. Just to give you an idea of some common ones you might experience are things like big mood swings.
Okay, I'm with you.
Other things might be like difficulty sleeping, maybe some changes in your appetite.
And back up, mood swings. So you mean like going from 0 to 60 and then back down again in like 5 minutes?
Yeah, exactly. Like feeling super irritable 1 minute, and then maybe you're like weirdly agitated about something, or you just can't concentrate the next, right? It's really common. And then the sleep disturbances, that's a big one too. You might find it really hard to actually fall asleep, or even if you do fall asleep, you might not stay asleep. So some people even get like really vivid dreams or nightmares, which is not fun.
Okay, yeah, none of that sounds particularly fun. And then you mentioned appetite changes too, right? What's going on there?
Yeah, so THC actually messes with the part of our brain that regulates appetite. So it can go either way, right? Some people lose their appetite completely, and then others are suddenly like starving all the time.
Oh, okay, so like it's totally unpredictable, the munchies.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I guess like if you're going through detox, it's not a bad idea to have some healthy snacks on hand, but also, maybe just some comfort food just in case.
Exactly. It's all about listening to your body and giving it what it needs during that time.
Makes sense, makes sense. So how long do these not so fun symptoms usually last? Like what's the average?
Well, usually the intensity of the symptoms, it kind of peaks within that first week after you quit.
Okay.
And then it gradually starts to subside over the next week or two.
Okay, so there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not forever.
Exactly.
But let's say someone is really struggling with these symptoms, like it's more than they can handle on their own. What should they do?
Yeah, great question. So that is actually where professional help can be honestly a game changer. And the article really emphasizes this, and for good reason. So we're not just talking about willpower here. Like there are actual changes happening in our brain's chemistry that need to be addressed.
Right, yeah, it's not just about toughing it out, ignoring it, hoping it goes away.
Exactly. So yeah, we're talking about the things like detox programs, therapy, that kind of support.
Okay, so like actual programs specifically designed for this.
Because they offer that structured environment with medical support to help you manage those withdrawal symptoms safely. But then they're also addressing those psychological aspects of marijuana use at the same time.
Okay, so like identifying your triggers, helping you develop healthier ways to cope with things, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And that circles back to what we were discussing earlier about understanding the why behind marijuana use. It's something that the article makes sure to touch on, and we should too.
Yeah. Okay, it's not just about quitting, it's about like understanding why were you using in the first place.
Right, like recognizing those underlying reasons you might be turning to marijuana in the first place. Is it stress? Is it boredom? Are you having a hard time dealing with certain emotions? Those are the things that you need to think about.
So it's about like getting to the root of the issue, not just slapping a Band-Aid on the symptoms, right?
Exactly. And speaking of getting to the root, the article talks about these co-occurring disorders, which is something else that's important to consider.
Co-occurring disorders. Hold on. What does it actually mean?
So it means that sometimes marijuana use can go hand in hand with other mental health challenges, things like anxiety or depression. And that's not always the case, but it is something to be aware of. And the article really stresses how crucial it is to address both, if that is the situation.
So you might need help with like multiple things at the same time, essentially.
Exactly, yeah. And a big part of that often involves like developing healthier coping strategies to manage those challenges.
Okay, so let's say you've identified your triggers, those whys. What are some of those healthier coping mechanisms that the article talks about? Like, what can someone actually do to replace marijuana with something, a little healthier?
Yeah, so the article makes it clear that it's really about finding what works best for you as an individual, right? Like, there's no one size fits all, but it does offer some really great examples.
All right, give us the goods, girl. What kind of coping strategies are we talking about here? I'm ready for the magic list.
Well, it's not exactly a magic list, but they are pretty great, okay? So one that the article really emphasizes is exercise.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Exercise, endorphins, all that good stuff.
Exactly. Because when you think about it, physical activity, it like releases those endorphins, those feel-good chemicals in our brain, and that can really help, especially during detox.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because if you're dealing with those mood swings and stuff, exercise could really help with that.
Absolutely. And it's not just the mood that it helps with, it relieves stress too. Plus, it can help to improve your sleep, which, can be a real challenge when you're trying to detox.
Right. Yeah. Two birds, one stone kind of thing. Never liked that expression actually, but yeah.
Totally. And then there's another big one to consider, which is mindfulness and meditation.
Oh, okay. I've heard about that, but I've always been a little skeptical. So to be honest, like how does that actually help?
So these practices, they can be really helpful for managing those cravings that can pop up and help reduce anxiety, right? And they can even just make you more self-aware. It's like instead of turning to marijuana to escape, you're learning to just be present in the moment and deal with whatever comes up.
Oh, okay. So it's about like shifting your mindset, really.
Yeah, in a way. And the cool thing is that there are so many different ways to practice mindfulness and meditation. You can find whatever works for you.
Okay, so it's not just sitting cross-legged on the floor trying to empty your mind or something.
No, not at all. Although you can do that, and it is helpful too. But yeah, if you don't want to do that, you can just try going for a walk in nature, really paying attention to your senses, or even just really focusing on your breath for a few minutes.
Okay, that seems doable. That's good to know. What else is on the list? Is there anything besides exercise or meditation?
Well, it's not in the article, but it's probably helpful to mention the power of creative outlets. Okay? So things like if you're into painting or writing or playing music, anything like that, those can be super therapeutic because they give you an outlet to express yourself.
Yeah, like channel that energy into something positive.
Exactly. And it can be a really healthy distraction from those cravings too, because you're so focused on something that you're really enjoying.
Right. You're not even thinking about marijuana because you're so into this other thing.
Right. And I think the main point here is detox. It's not just about what you're giving up, it's about what you're replacing it with.
Ooh, I like that. It's like filling that void with something that's actually really good for you.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's about creating a life you don't need to escape from.
That is a fantastic way to put it. I love that. This has been so insightful. So for our listener, the person who's been on this journey with us today, what's the main takeaway that you want them to remember about marijuana detox?
Great question. So I think the most important thing to remember is that detox is possible. You can do this and you are not alone in this journey either. There are people who understand what you're going through and resources to help you through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And what I really want to drive home is that self-compassion is key. Don't beat yourself up about things when they get tough. It's a journey. It's not a race.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. That's it. So if you stumble along the way, which, hey, it happens, we're humans, right? That's totally okay. It's part of the process. So just pick yourself back up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward.
I love that. I couldn't have said it any better myself. And for our listeners who are like, okay, I'm ready to take the next step, they can always dig into the full article that we've been talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They can find it on our Sandstone Care treatment resource pages. So the blog goes into even more detail about, the specific withdrawal symptoms you might experience, the different treatment options that are out there, all of that good stuff.
It's really a fantastic resource. So definitely check it out. And on that note, we'll leave you with this final thought for you to ponder. We've been focusing a lot on individual detox today. But what about the bigger picture? What about the role that our communities, our support systems, what can they play in making this process easier and more accessible for everyone? Maybe start thinking about the role that you might play in someone else's support system and how you might be able to help them in their time of need, whether it's through detox or something else. Just something to think about. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.